Hi everyone, Maureen Manley here. Happy Wednesday. And you know what that means? It's Winning Wednesday. Today I want to start by asking you a question. And that is, how have you felt when you faced a situation or a circumstance that you didn't feel confident in your ability to meet? Oftentimes that word is called overwhelmed. And today I want to share with you a strategy to deal with overwhelm, really to conquer that feeling and take control so it no longer controls you. So let's look at this feeling of overwhelm and what's going on in our bodies. What does Mind Body Sciences share with us about this and how it is that we can continue to be proactive forces while still facing these situations that we may not feel equipped to meet, but we still want to move forward into our lives and figuring out the answers instead of being overwhelmed. So, what happens in our brains is the emotional centers in our brain get what's called hijacked. There's a little organ in our brain called the amygdala, and it's deep within the limbic system, and that's basically our survival area of our brain. And when we're faced with something that we feel overwhelmed with, that means it's too big for it's outside of our comfort or what we feel we're capable of dealing with. It gets hijacked, and this little organ in our brain gets stimulated, and it releases these stress hormones that shut down our thinking brain and moves us into our survival brain and will elicit stress hormones. And it triggers the fight, flight, or stress response. And what I'm here to tell you is it doesn't have to. We can take control. And how do we take control? Is when something feels big, whatever that is, it's different from for me and for you. What's important is that you know what it is, that we can say, I feel overwhelmed. I have the awareness of it, and I take a deep breath, because just doing diaphragmatic breathing tells your nervous system to stop this fight or flight response so you can think better. And so awareness and breath, and then you look at the issue, you look at the problem, and you break it down into smaller pieces, because the whole picture is too much. Like, how do I follow this diet? Or how do I do this exercise program? Or how do I face this life with MS? It's all these things are too big. And so you break it down to smaller pieces and you solve the smaller problems. And so remember that organ in your brain I told you about in your emotional center called the amygdala? By doing that, it's not getting hijacked. You're flying underneath its radar, and you're taking a smaller step, solving smaller problems, and taking smaller actions, and you're continuing to move forward. You don't have to have all the answers. You just need to work at answering small questions and moving forward with the next one and the next one and the next one. And that will keep you moving forward in your life instead of being overwhelmed and shut down. And really, another one is freezing. Because when living with MS, sometimes the volume gets turned up and we feel like we need to protect ourselves a little bit more. But that's really the time to just bring in the awareness, bring in the self-compassion, and say, okay, I'm overwhelmed by this situation. How do I break it down? And when you break it down into smaller pieces, there can be some things you ask for help with. It doesn't have to be everything. And then you're continuing to, again, fly under the radar of that amygdala. And so it's not getting overwhelmed. And then you're telling yourself, good job every time you do it. And in this process, you're building more confidence. You're building greater self-esteem. You're building greater trust within yourself and resiliency. And you're moving forward with your big, bold, beautiful life with MS. So I hope that helps. Happy holidays, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.